So in essence, what I was trying to demonstrate to people is that, agriculture in general, we're trying to turn the use of the sun and the solar rays into use that energy in order to be able to produce crops. And whether those crops are fed directly to humans or in this instance, creating grass. Plant diversity can enable them effectively is that we can maximize and get more because we increase our solar panels. If you've got different leaf types, whether it's shape, length, or actually different crop heights, what you're doing is you're maximizing your solar panels. You're also enabling that as well, is by different root depths. Actually, those roots are then also exude sugars, which feed the soil microorganisms, which release the nutrients, again at different depths. So some of these plants can operate down to sort of like 600, 800 millimeters down to a meter. And therefore you're able to use a greater amount of soil, and therefore the overall productivity goes up. The plants themselves satisfy the nutrition in different ways. They'll have different mineral levels. They'll also have different energy and protein levels. And therefore that's a very good way of satisfying the needs of actually grazing animals. In terms of diversity, what we're looking to do, which is is to have, if you can imagine the concept of actually like we're saying here about of actually maximizing our solar panels, which is you've got here actually a mixture of grasses, and actually so certain in here we've got some timothy, we've got some ryegrass, we've got plantain, we've got white clover. So the different size leaf in terms of the white clover as opposed to say the red clover. And therefore, we've also got chicory. So there's a good diverse mix here. And if we could quickly dig down in there and turn that over, what we would find is actually you'd have different root depths and different types of roots. So you would have effectively some which would be more prostate and actually finer roots, such as which are operating nearer the top, maybe in the sort of top 20-30 centimeters, whereas some of the other plants would actually have tap roots and be going down and actually up to half a meter. Even this has only been established sort of a couple of years. And what of course that does, you're maximizing the amount of growth in terms of, so you're capturing the sun, but also we actually the uptake of nutrients, but also moisture. You've got a greater chance when you're actually operating at far deeper levels. And from a carbon sequestration point of view, which is again the same would be the case, is actually those roots will be going down, feeding the microorganisms at far deeper levels, and then they would in turn actually be increasing soil carbon, actually and at those levels where you're below the plough line, once the carbon's in there, which is we basically it sets you there for good. I don't think a different type of grasses shouldn't be overlooked either, and therefore the new varieties of cocksfoot and actually but also incorporating timothy and fescues can also give that diversity again in the same way as it can with broadleaves, such as you can get different root structures actually in different root depths, and therefore it's equally important actually is to incorporate different species of grass as well. They're not without problems. You are restricted. You can't necessarily use any broadleaf weed killers, so you don't want to be putting them into a weedy situation. In the same way as they do require different management, so they're more suited to rotational grazing than they would be set stocking. In terms of establishing them, there's many ways, particularly with technology now. Direct drilling is very effective, but the root management does need to be slightly different. But again, in talking to the practitioners who've been doing it a few years, it's well worth the results, because you can get the same level of productivity but with lower inputs. The best way to do this is to go away and see how you can establish these principles in your own system and give it a go. The expert on each individual farm is the farmer themselves, and therefore what we're looking to do, and particularly in plant diversity, is if you're not incorporating, if you're just using perennial ryegrass at the moment, is consider putting legumes in. If you're already doing that, consider putting in, say, maybe plantain or chicory. It's talking to your agronomist, the seed merchant, and saying, what do you think would work in my instance?